The alien queen walked through the grand hall, her steps quiet but full of authority. The hall was alive with music and laughter, but her mind was elsewhere. She had ruled her planet for 5 years now, and though her people loved her, danger always lingered in the shadows. Rival factions had always tried to challenge her power, but today was meant to be a celebration, a festival of peace, meant to honor unity between her people and visiting dignitaries. The queen's golden armor shimmered in the light, her eyes calm but watchful. Her guards moved in precise patterns around her, their weapons ready. Yet no matter how many guards surrounded her, there was always a risk. She had learned that a ruler's life was never entirely safe, even in the midst of celebration. Among the crowd, a human soldier quietly observed. His presence on the planet was unusual. Humans rarely ventured this far into alien territory, but he had been sent as part of a peace mission, a gesture of goodwill. His dark hair fell slightly over his eyes as he scanned the hall. Every movement, every whisper, every shift of energy was noticed by him. He had been trained for danger, but what he saw here was different. This was not a battlefield. This was a palace. But even in the palace, shadows could hide deadly threats. The festival was in full swing. Aliens of different shapes and sizes danced, sang, and shared gifts. The queen's advisors smiled politely at her, yet their eyes flickered with concern. Rumors of unrest had reached them earlier, but no one knew when or if a threat would appear. Suddenly, a hush fell over the crowd. The queen's instincts flared. From the far end of the hall, an arrow flew with deadly precision. It was a thin, metallic projectile, tipped with a strange green substance that glowed faintly. Before anyone could react, the human soldier moved. He lunged forward, placing himself between the queen and the arrow. Pain exploded through his chest as the poisoned arrow struck him. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself not to cry out. The crowd screamed, guards leaping into action. The queen froze, her eyes wide with horror. She had never seen such courage. The human, a creature so different from her own kind, had chosen her life over his own without hesitation. She wanted to move toward him to help, but she could not. She was rooted by a mix of shock and awe. The guards were faster now. They surrounded the attacker, who was already trying to flee. But it was too late. The human's body trembled as the poison began its work. His hand fell weakly to the ground and his knees bent. The queen's heart raced. Her advisors shouted, ordering medics forward. As the medics lifted the human carefully, the queen stayed close, her hand almost touching his shoulder. "Stay with me," she whispered, though she knew he could not hear her clearly. Her voice was calm, but inside she felt something she could not name. Fear for his life, yes, but also a strange admiration. How could someone so small, so human, carry such strength of heart? The medics worked quickly, applying alien medicine, mixing antidotes that could counter the poison. The hall was quiet now, everyone holding their breath. The attackers were captured, and the queen's guards had already secured the doors. The festival had ended abruptly, replaced by a tense silence filled with worry. The human soldier's face was pale, sweat running down his forehead. Yet his eyes opened briefly, meeting the queen's gaze. There was no fear there, only determination, even in the shadow of death. The queen's chest tightened. She had never expected to see such bravery from a human, a species she had often heard stories about but never truly understood. She knelt beside him, ignoring protocol. "You saved me," she said softly. "Why?" The human coughed, pain flickering across his features. "It is my duty," he said faintly, his voice strained. "No one should harm their ruler while I can stop it." The queen felt a lump in her throat. His words were simple, yet they carried a weight she could not ignore. The simplicity, the honesty, it was unlike anything she had experienced in her own court. Most of her advisors spoke in clever phrases and words meant to flatter or manipulate. This human spoke only truth. Hours passed as the medics worked tirelessly. The poison was strong, but the human was stronger. Slowly, color returned to his skin. He breathed more easily, his hand clenching the queen's wrist briefly as if to reassure her and maybe himself that he was still alive. The queen did not move away. She stayed, watching him recover. Guards and medics came and went, but she remained. She listened to the quiet rise and fall of his breathing. She thought about how easily he could have died. And she thought about how, instead, he had chosen her life over his own. By the time night fell over the palace, the human opened his eyes fully. his gaze meeting hers again. He managed a small, tired smile. The queen returned it, though it felt more like a silent promise than a simple gesture. In that moment a bond formed, one that was unspoken yet unmistakable. The festival of peace had turned into a test of courage. The alien queen had seen bravery in a human, and it had changed her. She felt a respect that was new, an admiration that was deep and quiet. She did not yet understand the full meaning of her feelings. But she knew one thing clearly. The human soldier had entered her life, and nothing would ever be the same again. As the queen watched him finally rest, surrounded by the soft glow of alien lights, she made a silent vow. She would remember this human not just as a protector, but as someone remarkable, someone who had faced death for her and survived. And in her heart, a question began to form, one that she could not yet voice aloud. Could someone like him belong not just in her court, but in her life? The palace was quiet now, but inside the queen a storm of thoughts and feelings had begun. The first chapter of a story that would change both their worlds forever had already begun. Born in courage, sealed by trust, and destined to grow in ways neither of them could yet imagine. The human soldier woke the next morning to the soft glow of alien sunlight filtering through the palace windows. The room was quiet except for the gentle hum of machinery monitoring his health. He shifted slightly, feeling the soreness in his body, a reminder of the poisoned arrow that had nearly ended his life. Yet he felt stronger than he had expected. Survival had been a struggle, but determination had carried him through. The queen was already there when he opened his eyes fully. She stood beside his bed, her expression a mixture of relief and curiosity. "You are awake," she said softly, her voice calm but filled with warmth. "I feared I might lose you," the soldier managed a weak smile. "I am still here," he replied, his voice low but steady. "Thanks to your people. And their medicine." She shook her head slightly. "No, it was your courage that saved you. Medicine only supports the brave." Her eyes held a strange intensity, one he had not seen before in her public appearances. There was respect, certainly, but also something deeper, a spark of admiration that made him uneasy and curious at the same time. Over the next several days, the queen visited him regularly. She did not come with guards or advisors, only herself. They spoke quietly, sometimes about the attack, sometimes about simple matters of the palace or the human's life before he came to her planet. Slowly, a bond began to form. The human learned about the queen's life, her responsibilities, the loneliness of her throne, and the weight of expectations placed upon her at such a young age. He listened intently, understanding more about her world and the pressures she faced. In return, he spoke of his home on Earth, of the people he had left behind and the ideals that guided him. They shared no secrets, only stories, but even in these stories, trust began to grow. Despite the queen's curiosity, the human remained cautious. He knew that any closeness between them would be unusual. Humans were rare on her planet, and their customs often forbade such familiarity. Yet he could not deny the connection he felt toward her, a sense of responsibility mixed with something he could not name. One morning, the queen invited him to walk in the palace gardens. The air was crisp, filled with scents of alien flowers that changed color as the sunlight touched them. Birds with shining feathers sang in melodic tones, filling the space with a sense of calm. It was a rare moment of peace in a world often filled with political tension. "Look at this place," the human said, taking a careful step over a glowing flower. "It is unlike anything I have seen on Earth." The queen smiled faintly. "It is beautiful, but dangerous too. Many of these plants can harm those who are careless." She stepped closer to him, her voice softening. "And yet you seem to walk among them without fear. Even the arrow. You faced it without hesitation." The human looked down, uneasy under her gaze. "It was my duty," he said simply. "I could not let you die." Her eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "I see that. And I will not forget it. No one has ever shown me such bravery." Her words were honest, and for the first time he sensed something more than respect in her tone. It was a recognition of his heart, a quiet acknowledgement of his strength. Days passed, and the human's recovery continued. He trained lightly, regaining his strength while observing the palace and learning the customs of the alien court. The queen often joined him, not as a ruler commanding obedience, but as someone who wanted to understand him. Together they practiced strategies, discussed diplomacy, and shared quiet moments of laughter. Yet, tension lingered outside the palace walls. Rival factions watched closely, suspicious of the growing closeness between the queen and the human. Some whispered that a human could never be part of their world, that the queen's admiration was dangerous and could undermine her authority. But she paid little attention to the gossip, focused only on the man who had risked his life for her. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the palace, the queen invited the human to sit with her on a balcony overlooking the city. Lights twinkled below, and the wind carried a cool, refreshing scent. "You have changed much since the attack," she said quietly. "Not just your body, but your presence. It affects everyone, even me." The human looked at her, surprised. "Affecting you?" he asked cautiously. "I only did what I had to do. I never expected anything in return." She laughed softly, a sound that was both musical and gentle. "I know, that is what makes it remarkable. Humans rarely act without desire for reward. But you risked everything without thought for yourself. That is why you matter. That is why I watch you." He felt a strange warmth in his chest. For a moment, the vast differences between their worlds seemed small. Here, under the alien sky, they were simply two beings, sharing trust and understanding. The days that followed were filled with subtle tension and quiet learning. The human skills and courage became known to the court, earning him respect, though some remained skeptical. The queen's admiration, however, grew openly. She began to notice his small gestures, the way he treated everyone with fairness, the way his eyes lit up with curiosity, and the calm strength in his voice. One morning, a message arrived from the Council of Nobles. They demanded a meeting to discuss the human's role in the palace. Some saw him as a hero, others viewed him as a threat to tradition. The queen knew this would be a test, not just for the human, but for herself. She had to defend her choice, her admiration, and perhaps something deeper that she had not yet fully named. When the human entered the council hall, he remained composed. He understood that his presence alone was a statement, a proof that courage and loyalty could transcend worlds and species. The queen stood beside him, her posture strong, her voice clear. "This human saved my life," she said simply. "He did not act for reward or recognition. He acted because it was right. That alone is worthy of respect and trust." Murmurs filled the hall, but the queen's words held weight. Her authority was unquestionable, and though some nobles still doubted, they could not deny her decision. The human, silent yet steady, stood as a symbol of honor and courage, qualities that were rare even among the most esteemed alien warriors. By nightfall, the council had ended. The human returned to the queen's side, his expression calm but thoughtful. "Your people," he began, "they may never fully accept me." She placed a hand gently on his arm. "Perhaps not," she admitted. "But my respect for you is enough, and I will protect what I feel is right, no matter the opposition." As they looked out over the city under the glow of alien moons, a new chapter began for both of them. The bond forged in danger and trust had grown stronger, moving beyond mere respect. They did not yet speak of what lay in their hearts, but the foundation was clear. Courage, loyalty, and admiration had connected them in a way that could change both their worlds forever. For the human soldier and the alien queen, the journey had only just begun. The Festival of Peace had arrived at last. The palace glittered with lights, and alien citizens from every corner of the planet had gathered to celebrate unity and harmony. Stalls displayed rare fruits, glowing crystals, and intricately designed crafts. Music filled the air, and performers danced in colorful costumes. The queen walked among the crowd, her golden armor polished to perfection. Her eyes, however, were not on the festival itself. They were on the human soldier who had recovered fully now. He moved with cautious confidence, observing the festivities while remaining alert. Despite the celebration, he knew that danger could appear at any moment. The crowd whispered as he passed. Humans were still rare here, and seeing one so close to the queen was unusual. Some admired him, recalling the courage he had shown during the attack. Others were suspicious, unable to imagine a human standing beside their queen. Yet the queen ignored their murmurs. Her focus was on him, and the calm strength he radiated. As the festival continued, the human soldier noticed subtle movements in the crowd. He saw figures that did not belong, shadows that moved too quickly, eyes that watched him and the queen with hostile intent. Instincts sharpened by battle made him tense, ready for any threat. He moved closer to the queen, a silent warning in his posture. The music stopped suddenly, replaced by gasps and shouts. From the far end of the plaza, a hidden attacker leaped forward, aiming a weapon at the queen. Time seemed to slow. The queen froze, her eyes wide in shock. Without hesitation, the human acted. He dashed forward, placing himself between the queen and the attacker. His movements were swift, precise, and fearless. The attacker's weapon was knocked aside, but the human was pushed to the ground in the struggle. His arms protected the queen as he rolled to avoid harm. The crowd screamed, some in fear, some in awe. The queen's guards reacted immediately, surrounding the attacker and restraining him. But it was the human's bravery that had prevented the weapon from reaching her. He rose to his feet, chest heaving, eyes locked on the threat until it was neutralized. Only then did he allow himself to glance at the queen. She was staring at him, a mixture of shock, admiration, and something more she did not yet understand. Her heart raced, and for a moment the celebration, the crowd, the palace, all of it, faded away. There was only him, standing strong and unwavering, ready to face danger for her once more. After the attack, the festival slowly resumed, but the mood had shifted. People whispered not just about the queen, but about the human who had protected her again. Many began to see him as more than a visitor. He was a hero, a figure of courage and loyalty that transcended species. Later that evening, the queen found the human in a quiet courtyard, the alien night sky above them glowing softly with twin moons. She approached him cautiously, her golden robes brushing the ground. "You saved me again," she said quietly. Her voice held awe and gratitude. I do not know how to thank you." He shook his head, brushing dust from his uniform. "It was my duty," he said simply. "I cannot let harm come to you if I can stop it." Her eyes softened. "Duty, yes, but courage as well. There is more to you than duty, I see it. Others may not understand, but I do. You are remarkable." The human looked down, unaccustomed to such praise. "I only acted because it was right," he said. "That is all I know to do." The queen stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "That is why I respect you, and why I admire you." Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. The human felt a warmth in his chest, a mix of pride, gratitude, and something new, something he could not yet name. Over the following days, the human soldier continued to prove his value to the palace. He trained with the queen's personal guards, sharing techniques from his world that had never been seen here. He strategized with her advisors, offering insights that balanced caution and creativity. His actions impressed many, even those who had doubted him before. Yet not all were pleased. Rival factions continued to plot, seeking to weaken the queen's position by exploiting the unusual bond between her and the human. Whispers of disapproval reached her ears, but she refused to be swayed. The human had saved her life twice now. His loyalty and bravery were undeniable. That alone gave him a place in her world. One afternoon, while walking in the palace gardens, the queen and the human encountered a young child who had wandered into danger. A large, luminescent creature known to be harmless to adults had trapped the child with its glowing tentacles. Without hesitation, the human sprang into action. He approached the creature calmly, using gentle movements to free the child without harming the alien animal. The queen watched in silence, her admiration deepening. Again, she saw courage, skill, and compassion not just for her but for others. It was a rare combination, one she had never seen in anyone, alien or human. When the child was safe, the queen knelt beside him, her eyes meeting his. "You risk your life for me, yet you also protect others without hesitation. You are unlike anyone I have ever known." The human met her gaze steadily. "I act for what is right. That is all I can promise." She smiled, a small but genuine smile that lit up her face. "Then promise me this, stay true to yourself. Do not change for anyone, not even me. I value who you are." A silent understanding passed between them. Words were not always necessary. Their bond had grown beyond mere speech. Courage, trust, and respect connected them now, stronger than any threat from rivals or tradition. As the festival continued, the queen noticed how the human moved among the people. He spoke kindly, helped those in need, and treated everyone equally. His presence calmed the crowd and inspired admiration. It was clear that he had won more than her trust. He had begun to earn the hearts of many, even those who had doubted him. By nightfall, the queen and the human returned to the palace balcony. The twin moons reflected off the city below, casting a serene glow. The queen spoke softly, almost to herself, yet loud enough for him to hear. "You have changed this place," she said. "Not just the festival, not just me, but everyone who witnesses your courage. Perhaps you have even changed me." The human looked at her, sensing the depth of her words. He did not respond immediately, for no words could fully capture the truth. Instead, he offered a steady, silent presence, knowing that trust and action often spoke louder than speech. That night, as they watched the moons, the queen realized something she had not expected. She admired him, respected him, and, most surprisingly, felt a connection that went beyond gratitude. The human soldier had risked everything for her, and now she could not ignore the feelings growing inside her. The story of the Festival of Peace became not just a tale of celebration, but of courage, trust, and a bond that defied tradition and expectation. For the human soldier and the alien queen, this was more than a festival. It was the beginning of a deeper journey, one that would test their hearts and their worlds, but also bring them closer in ways neither could yet imagine. The night ended with a quiet promise, unspoken but understood. Bravery and loyalty had brought them together, and now they would face whatever came next, not just as queen and soldier, but as companions bound by respect, courage, and a connection that could change both their lives forever. Eyes after the Festival of Peace were quiet, but tension simmered beneath the palace walls. The human soldier continued to train and advise, but whispers in the halls reminded him that not everyone welcomed his presence. Some alien nobles still doubted his place beside the queen, questioning how a human could influence the affairs of their planet. The queen, however, ignored their murmurs. Her attention remained on him, not just as a protector, but as someone whose courage, honesty, and loyalty had earned her deepest respect. She noticed the way he observed the palace, the careful thought in his eyes, and the way he treated everyone, guards, servants, and citizens alike, with fairness and kindness. Each day her admiration grew. One morning the queen invited the human to the royal library. The hall was filled with ancient books, glowing scrolls, and maps of lands and stars far beyond their planet. She had wanted to show him the history of her people, the battles they had fought, and the traditions that shaped their world. "You must understand," she said softly as they walked among the shelves, "that not all here will accept you. Some may resent your presence, no matter how brave or loyal you are." The human nodded. "I know I do not seek approval. I only do what is right and protect those who cannot protect themselves." She paused, watching him carefully. "That is exactly why I trust you, and why I care for you." Her words hung in the air. For a moment the human stopped, surprised. He looked at her, searching her eyes for meaning. "I care for you," she repeated, softer this time, her voice almost a whisper. "More than I should, perhaps, but I cannot deny it." The human felt a warmth he had not expected. He had always acted out of duty, out of honor, but now he realized that a bond had formed stronger than loyalty alone. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "I am honored that you feel this way. I respect you deeply as well. Your courage, your wisdom, they inspire me every day." The queen studied him, seeing honesty in his words. There was no flattery, no attempt to impress, only truth. And that truth touched her heart in a way few had before. She knew that her feelings were no longer just admiration. They were growing into something far deeper. But the palace was not free of trouble. Reports arrived from the Council of Nobles, warning of dissent and possible plots to weaken the queen's influence. Some factions had begun to spread rumors, claiming that her attachment to a human was dangerous and could destabilize her rule. The queen's advisors urged caution, suggesting that the human should be sent away for safety. She refused. "He saved my life not once but twice, and now he stands by me not because of fear or obligation but because of honor. How can I turn away from that?" The human overheard part of the discussion and approached her privately. "Your Majesty, I do not wish to cause trouble. If my presence threatens your rule, I will leave willingly." She shook her head firmly. "No, your presence is not a threat. It is a reminder of courage and loyalty. You do not belong here only because of tradition. You belong because you have earned it, and because I need you here." He looked at her, understanding the depth of her words. It was not just about duty or protection. It was about trust, respect, and something more personal that she could not yet fully name. Then I will remain, he said quietly. Not for glory, not for recognition, but because I believe in what is right. The days passed, filled with training, council meetings, and quiet conversations. The Queen and the human spent more time together, discussing strategy, history, and even small personal stories from their lives. Each moment strengthened their bond, though both knew that open acknowledgement of their feelings could invite criticism from the council. One evening, the Queen called him to her private chamber. The room was warm and softly lit, filled with artifacts and memories of her reign. She closed the door behind them and faced him. I cannot ignore what I feel anymore, she said. Your courage, your honesty, your heart, they have changed me. I find myself thinking of you constantly, and I wish for something more than what we have now. The human remained silent, listening carefully. He understood the weight of her words, the courage it took for her to speak them. Your Majesty, he said slowly, I have always acted to protect you, to honor my duty, but I feel a bond with you as well, one I cannot ignore. She took a step closer, her eyes searching his. This is dangerous, she whispered. The council, the nobles, they will not understand. Some may even see it as betrayal. He shook his head. I do not act out of fear of others. I act out of respect and what I know to be right. And my loyalty is to you, to your people, and to justice. For a long moment they stood together in silence. The palace, usually filled with noise and order, seemed to fade away. There was only the quiet understanding between them, a connection built on courage, trust, and shared experiences that neither could ignore. Finally, the Queen spoke again, her voice steady. Then we face this together. Whatever the council says, whatever the nobles whisper, we will remain true to what is right. The human nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and honor. He realized that this bond was no longer about duty alone. It was about partnership, trust, and perhaps even love, though neither had yet fully spoken the word. In the days that followed, the Queen began to assert her authority more boldly. She stood openly by the human side during public appearances, demonstrating that his presence was not to be questioned. Slowly, even some skeptics began to accept him, seeing that his courage, wisdom, and fairness were undeniable. Yet both knew that the true test was not over. Rival factions still plotted, and whispers of discontent lingered in the palace. Their bond had grown stronger, but challenges remained. They would need to navigate tradition, politics, and their own hearts carefully if they were to remain together. One night, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the city, the Queen spoke softly. I do not know what the future holds, but I know this. I trust you and I care for you. That will guide me no matter the obstacles. The human looked at her, his gaze steady and full of understanding. And I will remain by your side for as long as you need me. Not for recognition, not for power, but because it is right and because I care as well. Under the twin moons, a quiet understanding passed between them. Words were no longer necessary. Their bond was clear, strong, and unspoken. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, united by courage, trust, and a connection that could change not only their lives, but the future of the Queen's world. The palace was alive with light and movement. Yet in that quiet moment, two hearts had found each other. Danger and politics might loom, but for now they stood together, ready to face whatever came next, not just as queen and soldier, but as partners bound by honor, respect, and a growing affection that neither could deny. The palace was alive with activity as the Council of Nobles gathered for an important meeting. Word had spread of the Queen's growing bond with the human soldier, and many were eager to discuss it. Some wanted to challenge him, others merely whispered doubts about how a human could influence the affairs of their planet. The tension was thick, and the Queen knew this would be the moment to decide how far she was willing to go for what she believed in. The human soldier stood quietly at her side, calm and composed, despite the nervous glances from the council members. He had grown accustomed to scrutiny, and yet he remained steadfast. His loyalty was to the Queen and to what he knew to be right. Nothing else mattered. The Queen entered the hall, her presence commanding attention. The light from the grand windows reflected off her golden armor, making her appear radiant and unshakable. She walked with purpose, her eyes scanning the room until they rested on the human beside her. He met her gaze, steady and unwavering. Together, they made a silent statement. Courage and honor would not be denied. Council members, the Queen, began, her voice clear and firm. I have called this meeting to address the whispers and concerns regarding my companion, the human soldier. You all know his deeds. You have seen his courage and loyalty. He has risked his life not once but twice to protect me, and in doing so, he has demonstrated values that are rare even among our own kind. Murmurs rippled through the room. Some were approving while others were clearly skeptical. The Queen continued, ignoring the discontent. He is not here to challenge our traditions, nor to interfere with the governance of our planet. He is here because he has proven himself worthy of trust and respect, and I wish for him to remain by my side, not just as a protector but as someone who is important to me. The human soldier felt his heart tighten. Though he had expected respect, the Queen's words carried something more, an acknowledgement of their bond, a recognition of the trust and admiration that had grown between them. He stood taller, feeling a quiet pride and deep respect for her. One of the oldest council members rose, his expression stern. Your Majesty, with all due respect, this is unprecedented. A human, a foreigner, should not hold such influence. It is dangerous for the stability of your reign. The Queen's eyes flashed with determination. Dangerous? No. Courageous, yes. Worthy, yes. His presence does not weaken me, it strengthens me. He is a symbol of loyalty, bravery, and honor. If tradition cannot recognize that, then perhaps it is tradition that needs to change. The room fell silent. Few could argue with her words, for they rang with truth. The human soldier, despite being from another world, had proven himself in ways that words alone could not describe. He had saved the Queen, inspired the court, and shown a level of integrity unmatched by many who were born to power. Another council member, younger and more open-minded, spoke cautiously. Your Majesty, if this is your decision, then we must respect it. The people may question it, but they will follow your lead. The Queen nodded. Yes, we will lead by example, not fear, and we will show that courage and honor are more important than prejudice or doubt. Turning to the human soldier, she spoke with a voice that was softer, yet filled with meaning. I wish for you to stay, not as a visitor, not as a soldier, but as someone who has earned my respect and my trust. I wish for you to be by my side in every sense. The human felt a mix of emotions, honor, gratitude, and a warmth that spread through him like sunlight. He bowed slightly, meeting her gaze. Your Majesty, I am humbled by your words. I accept, not for recognition, not for glory, but because it is right, and because I care for you, as I have from the beginning. A quiet murmur ran through the council, but the Queen raised her hand. This is my decision. Let it be known that loyalty, courage, and honesty are valued above all. Let no one question the place of a being who has proven himself by actions, not by birth. The council members lowered their heads, some in respect, others in reluctant acknowledgement. The Queen's choice was final, and her authority was undeniable. After the meeting, the Queen and the human walked together in the palace gardens. The air was cool, the scent of glowing flowers surrounding them. The twin moons cast silver light over the paths, and the city beyond shimmered like a sea of stars. You have changed everything, she said softly. Not just for me, but for everyone who witnessed your courage. You have shown that what matters is not where one comes from, but the heart and honor within. The human looked at her, humbled. I only acted as anyone should. Courage and loyalty are what guide me. But your words mean more than I can say. She reached out, gently taking his hand. I want you to know that my feelings are sincere. You are more than a protector. You are someone I admire, trust, and care for deeply. He felt a warmth spread through him. And I feel the same, he admitted. Not just respect, but something stronger. A bond that cannot be broken by fear or tradition. For the first time, the palace seemed to quiet around them. The city, the council, the whispers of discontent, all faded. There was only the understanding between them, a bond forged in courage, trust, and mutual respect. In the days that followed, their partnership became visible to all. The queen appeared publicly with the human soldier, not hidden or cautious, but proud and unashamed. Citizens marveled at their bond, seeing the trust and loyalty that connected them. Slowly, the skepticism of some faded, replaced by admiration for the courage it took to stand together against prejudice and danger. The queen also began to address matters of the heart openly. She spent quiet moments with him, walking the palace halls, sharing stories of her life, listening to his experiences and laughing together. Their connection was no longer unspoken. It was recognized by those who mattered, and it grew stronger every day. One evening, as they stood atop the highest balcony overlooking the city, the queen spoke softly, her voice carried by the wind. "I have faced many challenges as a ruler, but none so meaningful as this. You have shown me that courage and loyalty are the true measures of worth, and in you, I have found both." The human met her gaze, steady and full of quiet strength. "And I have found someone I respect and care for, more than I ever thought possible. Your courage, your wisdom, they inspire me every day." Under the glow of the twin moons, the palace seemed to shimmer with promise. The queen and the human soldier stood together, united not by duty alone, but by a bond forged in trust, courage, and growing affection. Their story, once born in danger and uncertainty, had reached a moment of triumph, a proof that bravery, loyalty, and honesty could transcend worlds, traditions, and expectations. From that day forward, the queen and the human soldier were more than ruler and protector. They were partners, companions, and allies in a journey that would shape not only their lives, but the future of the planet. Their bond became a symbol of hope, courage, and the power of true honor. A reminder to all that the heart, above all else, is what truly matters. And in the quiet moments when the palace was still and the moon shone bright, they knew that no challenge could break the connection they had forged. Together, they would face whatever came next, hand in hand, heart to heart, united by a trust and affection that could withstand anything.